Alrighty, so let me do a quick news of the week episode as we got about 20 minutes before the game between Cincinnati and Tigres is about to begin. So Derrick Jones and Yeboah has both received lifetime ban for betting MLS games, and I think this looked like it was always bound to come. And that fact that there's been rumors and rumbling the fact that indeed both of those players did bet MLS game during their time with the Columbus Crew. Yeah, you just kind of had a sense that if they actually did find out, they were going to receive lifetime ban, and that of course is the case. And I feel like this is kind of been things that not only has happened in MLS, but it's also happened in other sports as well. We have heard players that have got caught in the gambling cookie jar and basically was either suspended for a year or even handed a lifetime ban, like what we see in MLB when it comes to betting games, and that they obviously have a long history of that as well. And it also kind of doesn't help the fact that nowadays with the sport betting kind of thing, ever since it's been legal, it's been pretty much everywhere. Like you cannot watch a sporting event without hearing something about gambling. You cannot watch a sports telecast without hearing anything about gambling, and it's all over the place. And I was never a big fan of this. For those of you that don't know me, I do not bet. I have never bet do sports betting, and I have no interest in terms of doing it because it just feels like all these kind of sports betting website like FanDuel, DraftKings, and stuff like that. It's just a sucker game, in my opinion, when it comes to get involved in that. But either way, obviously with the way that sports betting is more relevant than ever before, this is kind of something that is the unfortunate, truth and the unfortunate problem that I think sports are dealing with right now, not just in MLS, but as I said, in other leagues as well, where players unfortunately will get caught in the cookie jar, and if you get caught in the gambling cookie jar, this is exactly what can happen. Now, Diego Fagundes, he is set to return to the New England Revolution as a free agent, and I also wouldn't be surprised this might be the last club that he might be joining. It just feels like this is full circle for Diego Fagundes. If you recall, about 15 plus years ago, he signed with the New England Revolution on a homegrown deal. It is hard to believe he's still only 31 years old. Like he's one of those players that you just think, how in the world is he still 31? It feels like he's been in the league for a very long time, but I feel like this would just be a come to full circle moment if he decided to return to the club that basically signed him a homegrown deal about a decade and a half ago. And there's no doubt that Diego Fagundes, he's definitely not as good as he once was down as, and I feel like his career has kind of started to run down the clock. Even though I know he's only 31 years old, but he's been doing this for almost a decade and a half, and that usually when you have guys start their career so young like that, usually that's where they might call it a quit, maybe earlier than what you expected a player to do. Maybe they might call it a quit when they're already in their mid 30s. But yeah, for Diego Fagundes, it's a great reunion that he's going to go back to New England. Not quite sure if he's going to get starting minutes with that team, but certainly a good feel good story of him coming back to the club that kind of give him the chance in it and get and basically give him the chance of being the a homegrown player and give him the chance in terms of playing this league for the first time. And then speaking of reunion, so the Houston Dynamo is now going to get Aliou Ibrahim back as they decided to reacquire him after the Columbus Crew simply said, yeah, we don't want this guy, and not a big surprise because of that. I mean, during his time with Columbus, he was very mediocre at best, and that's been the problem for Aliou throughout his time so far in MLS, where we know that he does have some talent, especially of him getting in good space, and he also does have speed as well. But when it comes to finishing, yeah, that's been kind of the problem, which is kind of surprising. The fact that the Dynamo decided to give him another shot, although most likely he's going to be more used as a depth piece because I'm pretty sure the Dynamo is still going to start Ezekiel Ponce at the number 9 spot. I don't think bringing back Ibrahim is or bringing back Aliu is the answer in terms of maybe looking for a 9 on this team that will really help the attack. But nevertheless, it is a reunion with Aliu now going back to the Houston Dynamo after only spending a couple of years with the Columbus Crew. And then the Seattle Sounders, they announced a couple of players on contract extensions. So they signed Alex Rodon, Nuhu, Danny Muswaski, and Osaze De Rosario to a contract extension. Now, all those players that is on a extension. Alex Rodon and Nuhu, that's a no-brainer. I'm a little bit surprised that they decided to sign Osaka Rizaro to a new contract extension. There was pre talk the fact that he was going to be maybe going to somewhere else, but the Sounders decided to keep hold of him. And the same goes for Danny Muswowski as well. There was definitely some rumbling that maybe he was going to be traded to another team. Consider he is dropping down the peck order a bit, though. He's probably going to get more time now that Jordan Morris once again is dealing with injuries. But yeah, overall, all these signings in terms of contract exchange by the Sounders, it's kind of interesting that they announced all four players at once. You usually don't see a team that announce that many players in a contract extension in just one news letter. Now, in terms of player of the week, it's won by Wiki Carmona. So yeah, not only the fact that Wiki Carmona had his revenge game against the New York Red Bulls, but he did so well in that revenge game that he earned himself player of the week as well. And by the way, last week I didn't mention who, of course, is the player of the week, but you probably know who won last week. It's got to be the GOAT himself, Lionel Messi, with just an incredible performance that he had against Orlando City in that Florida derby. So yeah, I just want to quickly mention that as that was last week's player of the week. And then moving on in the next news, and this is a very sad one. So Edouard Leuven, we know that he's been in personal leave with St. Louis for the past couple of weeks, and he's been dealing with a lot of personal issue. Well, it turns out we can now find out why exactly that is the case, and that of course, he's been kind of on leave because he wants to take care of his wife, Iona Leuven, who is battling with cancer. But unfortunately, it was announced just recently that she has passed away after a 2-year battle with cancer as well. And yeah, just a very sad thing to see, especially for someone that is still relatively young and that I can't imagine what Evan Leuven has to deal with, and his family is dealing with right now. This has to be one, if not the most heartbreaking thing a player has to deal with. Seeing your wife or even any of your family members sadly passed away in such a young age like that. And there's no doubt St. Louis is going to give Edouard Leuven time. As much as I know they would desperately need Leuven in terms of his playmaking ability to get that St. Louis attack going. As the old saying goes, sometimes personal life is just bigger than soccer, and this is clearly bigger than soccer. And certainly, my condolence is toward Edouard Leuven, and certainly his family and all the family involving Ilan Leuven of just such a sad things to see a couple of days ago. And then moving on to a little bit more happier news. So Carlos Vela has officially joined the LAFC ownership group. So there's been talks that he was going to be joining the ownership group, and indeed, this is of course is the case. It feels like LAFC they're just going to take anybody joining their ownership group. They have a lot of owners in this team. Obviously, everybody know Will Ferrell is one of the owner for LAFC, but now Carlos Vela, a club legend, has now joined the ownership group. Would not be surprised in matter of time that I think in the near future they're going to be building a Carlos Vela statue in front of BMO Stadium. I mean, just an absolute club legend for LAFC, and yeah, it only makes sense the fact that he decided to stay with the club that kind of made him a legend, and now joining the ownership group as well. Now, the Craft Sports and the city of Foxborough has finally reached a deal to ensure the World Cup will actually happen in Gillette Stadium. And honestly, the only thing I have to say about that is what took so long, because it just kind of had a feeling that with all this ongoing battle with the city of Foxborough and the fact that they're having problems in terms of ensuring enough funds in terms of hosting the World Cup, and especially the public safety side, that was kind of the main reason why they're lacking funds of it. You just kind of had a feeling the Kraft Group has to step in to do this. I mean, everybody's been asking why is the Kraft Group not stepping in? After all, even some people have jokingly said that they pretty much own the city of Foxborough with the stadium that they have pretty much is the big landmark in the city itself. Well, seems like I think the Kraft Group realized that yeah, let's actually do something about this. I mean, after all, it is host in the stadium that we built and own it as well. So yeah, good to see that they of course reach a deal as a resort, and this means that yep, there will be World Cup games that's going to be happening in Gillette Stadium and in the New England area as well. And then last but not least, Cleveland MLS Next Pro team has officially named as Forest City Cleveland and will be competing in the MLS Next Pro as an independent club in 2027. I love the fact that there's a lot of independent club now in MLS. You know, MLS Next Pro, it used to be just a development league, and in many ways it is still kind of a development league. But it is pretty clear that with a lot of these independent club has joined MLS Next Pro, it is pretty clear that this is just a dig on USL, and especially with the way that USL is still having their issue with their ongoing labor dispute, and that there's even talks that players maybe actually strike as soon as this weekend as well. I feel like MLS Next Pro is just kind of taking advantage of this and getting some of these teams join this development league. But also, you know, I also love the name itself. It's kind of interesting that their abbreviation is FC Cleveland, and usually you think FC Cleveland, you're thinking, oh, this is another team with a boring FCC name that we've seen with a lot a team in MLS as well. But you know, for once, it's actually abbreviation. It actually stands for a city instead of football club as well. So kind of a clever name that is. I also love their badge as well. If you haven't seen their badge, you should definitely check out. And they've also mentioned that they're going to be playing in the downtown Cleveland soccer stadium, which that's definitely good to see. Though you know, I don't know. Did they mention the fact that they're going to build themselves a soccer stadium in the downtown town area? But either way, you know, certainly this is good news for the city of Cleveland and for people that you know. I think after what we saw in that game last year where Columbus of course played against Inter Miami. I know some people will say a lot of people will gone to that game just because of Messi, but I feel like soccer could definitely work in Northern Ohio as well. Cleveland is definitely a city that you know they're it's definitely a big enough city that I can definitely think that could deserve a USL or even an MLS Next Pro team, and that's exactly what happened, and we'll see how they'll do as they are going to be entering the league in 2027. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these news, and if there's any news I didn't mention here on the board, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you guys next time.